Just, just breaking daylight here too quickly. That's a text from my brother, who's out in his little shooting house out on his friend's farm. The shooting house, he built him a nice one there too, and he calls it the Little Bighorn. So Doug's in the Little Bighorn, I'm in the Quigley. Diane's over in the house, the light's still on, just cracking daylight, and today is the day, starts the second half of the early muzzleloader season. We're halfway through. Regular rifle will open a week from today. Yeah, I don't see anything in the fields. You can't make out anything in the fields so far anyway, so we'll wait on daylight. Well, at full daylight, light enough where you can see the fields. Haven't seen a thing in any of them so far. So just now, I hear the very first turkeys starting to do a little bit of tree calling. Heard the first crow calling off in the distance. Up until then, all I had heard was one owl calling down the hall. But the turkeys and the crows waking up, it's daylight. It's a calm, still one. It was windy yesterday. There was a shot. Sometimes it'd be hard to tell, but that wasn't from a gun club. That was shot down through here somewhere. Somebody may have got him one this morning. It's only the third shot I've heard, other than at the gun club. I mean, you hear them shooting at the gun club a lot, but other than at the gun club, that's only the third shot I've heard all season. This is the 8th day. But that was a shot. I believe from down the valley there. Sitting in here and in the mountains around, I mean, you can't really be sure exactly where a shot comes from on the first time. But if they shoot twice and your first shot got your attention and you're paying attention, you can usually pinpoint where it's come from on that second shot, not the first. So somebody must have seen something. Flock of turkeys and a few does. That's all I've seen so far. Well, it was getting a mite chilly. The sun finally sort of broke through the clouds and hitting on the Quigley, and with all the winds and everything around it, it really does. When that sun comes out, it really helps warm it up considerable in here. Haven't seen any more deer, except that 8-pointer and a few does, and then one flock of turkeys. That's about all I've seen so far today. Texting to my brother and friends that's around on stands in various places. And They're having a day about like what I'm having. I've been sitting here watching, been watching a pair of really pretty red-tailed hawks. A pair of them. Pretty things. They finally flew off somewhere. Well, solar period's cranked up, we're in it, but only activity's been for a couple of hawks. I think I'm going to give it up for the morning. I haven't seen a thing moving past hour and a half, so. I'll go back to the house and do some stuff around there that needs to be done, and come back out this afternoon, I reckon. Let's go to the house. Back for the last little bit of daylight. Three does up on the hill already. They're watching back in the woods. Both of them. The fawn is one fawn pair. It's just fripping around. I don't know what it's doing. But the two does are intently looking back in the woods. Got their tails up. One's got a tail up. There's something out there. I don't know what's going on. They're getting nervous. Tails up. There's something in there. Something's got them. Got their attention big time. All three of them staring back in the woods. There's something. Whatever it is, it's got them uneasy. I think it's probably a buck. I don't think it's coyotes or anything. Whatever it was, or is. They seem to have lost interest in it. Well, the 8th day of the season is coming to a close. Old Tennessee poor boy just sitting there patiently waiting for opportunity to shoot at something. Haven't had anything that I really wanted to try a shot at with. Season's only half over. Daybreak, day 9 of a 14-day season. Back here in the Quigley. You know, in my hunting and fishing videos, you'll often hear me mention solar periods. Well, I have followed that for so long, I guess I just take it for granted that everybody knows what solar period is. Well, that's certainly not the case. I had a subscriber that asked me to explain that, what it is. And so if somebody takes the time to watch one of these videos and somebody takes the time to comment on them, then I try to take the time to answer in whatever it is. So he asked, he said, well, in your next video, would you explain what you mean by solar period? So I'm going to attempt to do just that. Now, the solar periods are based on studies made by a man named John Alden Knight nearly 100 years ago. And he based that on what a lot of the old market hunters, times that market hunters would venture forth to ply their trade, let's put it that way. But anyway, John Alden Knight, and you can look it up on Google, you can look up John Alden, A-L-D-E-N, Knight, and find out his story. You can look up the solar tables. You can still buy the solar tables, the booklet printed out, where you can carry that with you at all times, which I did for many, 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 many years. And then what I've used lately is, or for the past 10 years, ever since they come out with one of these things, you know, that got all the apps on it. Well, there's an app on the App Store that's called iPhone. iSolar. iSolar app. And it is John Alden Knight stuff. Now, there's a lot of different, there's a lot of people trying to make a few bucks, you know, here and there. And people come up with all these different theories of when game's going to move, when fish going to bite, and all that kind of stuff. And I haven't found any of them that work with a flip at all, except solar period, and it absolutely works. Now, they claim, John Alden Knight claims 75% of their about accuracy. Well, I'd say it's a whole lot more than that. I would say at least 90% accurate. Now, all it is, it's based on the position and the gravitational pull of the sun and the moon and all that. So, I just looked up a few minutes ago on the iSolar app, and they say, what is the solar theory? So let me just read a little bit about what it says. It said, an avid outdoorsman and sports writer, John Alden Knight perfected his solar theory of fish and game activity over a period of many years, making observations while hunting and fishing. He found that all fish and game, including deer, turkey, bass, and trout, are more active during different times of the day and night. He examined 33 variables to see their effect on hunting times and fishing times. Of the 33, the position of the sun, moon, and tides were determined to be of the utmost importance. He noted that there are 2 major time periods and 2 minor time periods. Each day that fishing and hunting are most likely to be productive. Notice it said it's most likely, it's not going to. John Alden Knight has never said that this you're going to catch fish or you're going to find deer during those times. He said if fish move and if the deer move on that day, these are the times most likely that that's going to happen. Anyway, because of the effect of the sun and the moon, he named these times solunar periods, which have been compiled into solunar tables for almost 8 decades now. Now, this is a quote from the book that John Alden Knight put out, which is called Moon Up, Moon Down. Other conditions not being unfavorable. In other words, local weather and water conditions can override any effect that the gravitational pull of the moon or the sun has on you. Like in fishing, you've got to look at the local weather and water conditions that prevail at that time. So that's what he's saying here. Other conditions not being unfavorable. Fish will feed, animals will move about, birds will sing and fly from place to place. In fact, all living things will become more active, more alive during solar periods than any other times of apparent equal value. Those anglers who have had the breadth of vision to follow the schedule have found that it is a guide to the best fishing of the day and the quality of their sport is improved. That's a little quote from the book that John Alden Knight put out called Moon Up, Moon Down. And that's the solar table. Anyway, solar tables, tides, and best hunting and fishing times. The major periods last 2 to 3 hours and peak when the moon is positioned overhead and positioned underfoot. This is when the combined gravitational forces of the sun and the moon are the strongest. The minor period times occur roughly halfway in between when the moon passes the horizon at moonrise and moonset. Minor periods generally last half as long as the major periods. The best hunting times and the best fishing times occur at the peak of the major and minor periods. These roughly correlate with high tide and low tide times. Tides occur roughly every 12.5 hours, but because they are caused by a complex set of interactions, the sun and the moon's gravitational forces, rotation of the earth, and the shape of the near-shore bottom, the tide times will vary somewhat from the solar table periods. Solar periods have been equated to equilibrium tide times, which are the times that tides would occur for a specific longitude if the entire earth was covered by water. Okay? The effects of the lunar cycle, the lunar phase, and the moon calendar. The best hunting and the best fishing times also vary day to day throughout the month with the moon phase, with the best activity occurring around a full moon and a new moon. This is when the moon and the sun's gravitational forces are the strongest. The lunar phase refers to the percent illumination of the moon as viewed from the earth. The lunar cycle, the time between 2 full moons, averages 29.5 days and varies month to month because the moon's orbit is elliptical. Because the average month is 30.5 days, the lunar cycle shifts by approximately 1 day each month. As a result, there's one calendar day each month that the moon doesn't rise and one day that the moon doesn't set. This affects the solar table such that there will be 2 days each month during which there is only one major period and 2 days in which there is only one minor period. iSolar, the app, accounts for this and will return the NA value to the appropriate data field. iSolar hunting and fishing times for the iPhone can provide you with the location-specific solar data you will need to make your next trip a success. Now, I quit reading there for a while. For years, I worked in a medical profession. And what I didn't operate on any kind of an appointment thing. In other words, the office was open, people free to come whenever, whatever. But I could accurately predict when I was going to be busy with handling patients or customers, or when I had time to do the other stuff that needed to be done. I just looked at the solar table. And it wouldn't be, you go along and there would be a person come in here and there, but not very busy, but solar period come on about 10, 15, 20 minutes into the solar period, that door start bang, 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 bang. One after another, after another, after another, after another, after another. Then when the solar period ended, you had time to do everything else. So people absolutely are affected by solar period. I watched that for many years. I mean, people are affected by it. If you ever notice that if you drive around looking, you see cattle laying down in the fields. If you see cattle laying down, fishing ain't going to be worth a flip because there is not any solar period going on whatsoever. If cattle are laying down, you won't see it. But when the solar period comes on, the birds become more active, everything becomes more active. I'd be out on the lake fishing. This was many years ago. I've been following this stuff for way over 50 years. And I'd be out on the lake fishing. Back 50 years ago, mostly the boats on the water were just fishing boats, And you'd see people sort of sitting around the bank, fishing. And just sitting there fishing. And the solar period come on, all of a sudden they crank up and they start running all over the place. They would run into the dock and get something to eat or whatever they'd done. They whoom, 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 when they're flying around all over the place. And when the effect of the solar period was over, they'd stop running around and they'd go right back to fishing. They missed the good fishing. Now, when they said the solar period, major solar period lasts around 3 hours. It lasts around 3 hours. But generally speaking, that activity period of both deer and everything else, but particularly fish, their activity period is short. It's real short. So that's not saying that they're active this whole period, this whole 3 hours, but if fish become active, they're going to become active within those 3 hours. But their activity period usually is just minutes. It's short. It's short. Even the activity that I see out here on the farm from a deer is short, but it generally occurs during those solar periods. But so the fishermen would be sitting out there, and when things really got active, whatever it is that's causing the fish to really turn on at that time, it affects the fishermen too. They get restless. They fire up that engine and they're running around all over the place and going to the dock to eat and whatever, sightseeing or whatever it is they're doing. And the fish are biting like crazy. So I could be out there on the lake and hadn't even looked to see what the solar tables was. When I looked around, all of a sudden the fish were running everywhere. Boy, fish, because that's when the fish are active. That's exactly right. Now, today, The lakes have changed. Everything's changed. There's party boats, ski boats, wake boats, all that mess is out there, big bass boats and all that stuff. So right now, you can bet, even though the fish that's the time that the fish is going to be at their best, is during those periods. You can also bet that human activity is going to be at its peak during those times. There'll be more skiers, more jet skiers, and wake boats and all that stuff during the solar period than there is any other time. But you know that. But all I'm going to tell you is solar periods work. They absolutely work. And they affect everything, including you, including the human. Most people are not aware of that, but it absolutely works. And everybody that I've hunted or fished with, and I've introduced them to the solar period, they absolutely follow it. And they've learned it works. Like I said, if you don't know what they are, at least give them a try. Now, I've seen a lot of other takeoffs and knockoffs and crazy predicted times and all that. I've never found any of it to work at all. But John Alden Nights, moon up, moon down, solar tables absolutely work. Now, like I said, they're still your local weather and water conditions, and pressure on deer and fishing pressure and everything else can and will affect it, can even override it. But all the solar tables are telling you, if fish move, if fish become active, if the deer move, if the deer become active, this is probably when it's going to happen. So, and like I say, John Alden Knight claims only about a 75% accuracy for that. I'd say it's at least 90%. It's more than these 75%. But it's not saying they're going to move. It's not going to say fish are going to bite. It's not saying the deer are going to move. The deer are not going to come to your food plots. That's not what it's saying. It's saying if the fish bite, if the deer are up and on their feet, moving about, coming to your food plots, or this, that, and the other, or chasing does and all that stuff, this is when it's probably going to happen. So if you know when the time is likely to happen, you'll be on your toes. Be looking. You won't be back at the house. You won't be back at camp. Because when it comes on, you may have sat out there and looking and looking and looking. Like now, there is no solar period right now, and it's not going to be until probably around 9:45. I'll have to look at them and see, but it's going to be somewhere around 9:45. There's not anything going. So I sit here and I look and you think, well, heck, I think I'm going to go to the house and fix me some breakfast. I'm going to do something. You're starting to get antsy. That's solar period. So when you start getting antsy, the deer are due. Don't leave. So I suggest that you go to Google, look up John Alden Knight solar period and tables and theories, and go to the App Store and look up iSolar. Little I Solar. Look at that. Look that up, because it is John Alden Knight's solar period. Yes, it is without a doubt, my humble opinion, the best thing out there. So I hope that explains when I say the solar period starting or ending and all that kind of stuff. At least maybe now you'll know what it is. So I give this little talk in response to a subscriber that asked a question and asked me to explain it to him. So I figured if he probably wasn't by himself. There's probably a lot of people out there that didn't know what it was. So now you know. So go look it up. I'm going to get me another cup of coffee, and I'm going to pull up my isolar app on here and look to see exactly when that solar period is today. Well, I just looked up the solar periods for today, and it's 10:07 to 1:07. That's a major period, so it could last up to 3 hours. So during that 3 hours is when you really want to keep your eyes peeled. And I saw there was a study done. I don't remember who did it or when it was about how many of the total deer hunters, what percentage of them hunt mornings? What percentage hunt afternoons? Now I don't remember where I got this or where I saw it, where I read it or anything else, but and I don't remember what the percentages were, but there was a percentage. A certain percentage of the deer hunters hunted mornings, and a higher percentage hunted afternoons. I actually thought it'd be the other way around. I thought there'd be more morning hunters than there are afternoon hunters, but apparently not. Because it said there was something like, I don't know, 15, 16% more people hunted afternoons than hunt mornings. But how many is really not the point. But there are a certain percentage, 15, 16, something like that, percent more hunters hunt afternoons than mornings. But it's their percentage of success. What was the success ratio for the morning hunters and what was the success ratios for the afternoon hunters? Well, like I said, there were more people hunt the afternoons. A few more hunt the afternoons than morning. That's not the surprising thing. The surprising thing was the success ratio. The success ratio of the people that hunt afternoons was appreciably higher than the mornings. A higher percentage of deer are taken by afternoon hunters than morning hunters. What percentage of morning hunters are successful? What percentage of afternoon hunters are successful? It was considerably higher for the afternoon hunters. It was something like 30%. Their success ratio is something like 30% higher than the morning. And I said, I don't know the exact, I've forgotten exactly what they were, but it was something along that line. But here's the interesting thing. Of all the hunters, only 3% of the hunters hunt midday. Only 3%. Well, I'm an all-day hunter. My handle on a lot of these things where you got to have a name, you know what? My name is Midday Long Hunter, meaning midday. I hunt all day. I don't just hunt in the mornings normally. Like when I'm out hunting the woods and I'm still hunting. Like I said, my favorite thing's still hunting big woods. I'll leave out before daylight. And I hunt all day, right up to dark. I don't go back to camp like most of the rest of the guys do. I stay out there. And I'm not bragging, I'm just stating a fact. I kill a lot of deer. I kill more deer than virtually anybody that I know of or that I hunted with. But simply because I stayed with it. But only 3% of the hunters hunt during the middle of the day. Now I'm talking middle of the day. But their success ratio is 300% higher than the afternoon hunters. And the afternoon hunters' success ratio is about 30% higher than morning. I'm going to tell you something. If only 3% of the hunters hunt during the middle of the day, but their success ratio is 300% higher than the afternoon hunters, maybe you might want to think about hunting during the middle of the day. Now, out here at the farm, when I'm hunting it quickly, I've got how far I got to walk? I got to walk 140 yards from the house, or I can even hunt right from the house. So I can actually be at the house and still hunt. I got windows all around the house, and I can sit and walk through the house and look out and all that kind of stuff. So out here, I will often go back to the house and lollygag around, visit with the wife or something, or do chores or something during the middle of the day. But it's not just during the middle of the day. If the solar period is occurring during that time, you better believe I'll still be there. And the solar period today is 10:07 to 1:07. I ain't leaving it. I'm not leaving it quickly. You can bet on that. I'm not leaving it quickly. Now, if I was in the woods, boy, I'd really be on my toes. Because I have killed more deer between 10 and 2 than any other time of the day. I've killed more good bucks out on national forest, roaming around, still hunting, between 10 and 2 than any other time. I've often threatened to do it, and I said, I don't know why I'm getting up so early and heading out there in the woods. I rarely ever shoot anything real early like that, but probably has a lot to do with the way I hunt. While still hunting and roaming around through the woods, I'm hunting thick stuff. I guess I'm hunting loafing or bedding areas primarily. So the deer tend to be back into their loafing and bedding areas a little bit later in the morning. I'm not hunting feeding areas as such. When you hunt in big woods, it's hard to say what's going to be good feeding areas. It really is. I mean, you don't know. I mean, the woods all look a whole lot alike, but you can bet that the best bedding areas are going to be the thick stuff. And in our areas, somewhat steep and thick stuff, where people don't generally want to go, that's where they're going to bed. So that's where I hunt. Sometimes it takes a little while to get into there, but anyway, it takes the deer oftentimes, so I guess a while to filter back into that point. But anyway, I'm hunting primarily bedding and loafing areas in the big woods, and it's very high success ratio during the middle of the day. Conversely, here at the farm, I'm hunting feeding areas. They're not bedding here. Now, yeah, I look out occasionally, I see a deer, or several deer, bed down right in the middle of the field, but that's not normal bedding areas. So from the Quigley here, I can't cover bedding areas. I'm relying on feeding areas. So it's a totally different situation. And the normal feeding time, of course, as we all know, is early in the morning, late in the afternoon. Now, when you've got a solar period that correlates or corresponds with that early morning or late afternoon normal feeding time, you're most likely, that's going to be some of your better afternoon and morning times is when they correspond with a solar period. And don't sell the minor period short either. They can be about as effective as the majors. But years ago, when I was getting started on this, this was over 50 years ago, and I got onto it, and way back when Fishing Facts magazine was just getting started, and somewhere around 50 years thereabout, and they were teaching Buck Perry stuff. Well, Buck, as far as I know, Buck never himself ever really paid a lot of attention to solar periods. At least that's what he said 50 years ago. He may have come around to it, I don't know. But anyway, Fishing Facts magazine was a magazine set out to basically teach Buck Perry spoon plugging, to teach Buck Perry's method of fishing. And they actually, these guys followed John Alden Knight's stuff, a lot of these writers. And I don't remember which writer it was, with George Pazek or who, I don't remember who it was. But when they were talking about the solar periods, and the thing that really got me, that really got me really looking into them. Like I said, I don't remember. I think it was Fishing Facts magazine for facts, but I couldn't lay my hand on the Bible and swear to it because where I read it and exactly who wrote it. But I definitely remember what it said. They had researched it, and they said that every world record fish, freshwater and saltwater, that they could nail down to what time the fish was caught. Every world record fish was caught during a major solar period, with the exception of one. And there was one, I don't remember what that was. I don't even know if they said what it was, but anyway, it was one fish, real world record fish, that was not caught during a major solar period. But guess what? It was caught during a minor period. So boy, that grabbed me. Now, where the guy got his, or who did it, and how much research he did, I don't know. But his statement was that he had researched it, and every world record fish was caught during a major solar period, with the exception of one, and that was caught during a minor period. Well, that's not chance. That's not chance. There's something to it. Well, there is something to it. It absolutely works. So do yourself a favor and at least look into it. So back to our discussion on the solar period. The solar period is not a catch-all, but it's something that you can use as an aid. Learn the solar periods, learn when they are, and apply them to your hunting. For instance, normally, like I said, I'd be out in the woods, in the big woods. I'm still hunting. On National Forest, I'm hunting from daylight to dark. And I'm spending most of my time in those woods in the loafing and the bedding areas. So I'm spending most of my day in the same sections of the country that the deer spend most of his time in. So if that old buck, if he's later, he just gets up, stretch his legs for a minute, he just walks a few yards, I'm liable to catch him moving. Or he maybe go over to get him a drink. He may walk 50 yards to get him a drink or something. I might catch him out there moving. So I'm hunting, loafing and bedding areas in big woods where the deer spend most of their time. So that midday time, that midday is very productive in woods hunting. Because I'm hunting primarily, like I said, loafing and bedding areas. But here at the farm, I'm hunting feeding areas. It's feeding areas. I'm hunting this open fields. They're coming out to eat weeds and clover and food plot and things like that. So, as you know, the deer have a tremendous tendency to feed early and late. So the midday, if you're hunting food over food, midday is not the best time of the day. It might be in the big woods that I like, but out here when you're hunting over food areas, when food is the primary thing that brings the deer out, that's going to be primarily an early and late thing. And the feeding areas is where the deer, they don't spend nowhere near as much time in their feeding areas as they do in their loafing and bedding areas. At least during shooting hours, they don't. So The movement that I've seen today, the movement that I've seen today was in the normal morning movement period. And when the solar period has started up here late in the middle of the day, I haven't seen anything out here today. So I'm going to go ahead and leave the Quigley and go to the house for a while. But if I were in big woods, hunting bedding areas and loafing areas, brother, I would be on my toes this time of the day. But not out here in where it's a primary, like I said, a feeding situation. Now, once the rut gets wound up, when the rut is wound up, to heck with feeding. I mean, they'll be out all day long, running around, liable to doing anything. But from my observation, the rut's just the peak of the rut. The real rutting activity is just getting started. Here in a few more days, I won't want to leave the Quigley period. I mean, I'll stay here daylight to dark, because I know that when the rut is up on full swing, man, they're liable to show up anywhere. But right now, the rut is just getting started. Like the bucks, and there was 3 does out here a little while ago, and this buck comes out. Well, the does paid attention to the buck. They didn't want much to do with him. They were kind of hanging off away. But he didn't pay attention to them at all. He was more interested in feeding. So that's the situation we got right now. So even though there is a major solar period going on right now, I'm hunting feeding areas. And there's no activity that I see going on right now. So, but if you're feeding, hunting like right here, a feeding area, you expect them to come out to feed. And you've got a solar period that coincides with that late afternoon, early morning period. For heaven's sake, be there. That's the times that you're most likely to catch them out there, catch that buck out there in that open. If he's normally wanting to feed anyway, and the solar period coincides with it and gets him really stirred up, he's very likely to be out there. So check into the solar periods and check into that. I don't think you're going to be disappointed on that at all. Right now, I'm going to close up shop and head to the house.